This is TY back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about Wilder. I wanted to talk about the possible opponents that could be next for Wilder. Obviously, we all know last Saturday was a huge night for boxing. You know, we got to see Claressa Shields do her thing. We got to see Devin Haney do his thing. We got to see Alicia Baumgartner do her thing, and of course, we got to see the Bronze Bomber do his thing. And Caleb Plant as well. But we got to see Wilder do his thing in the first round against Robert Helenius. It was a great display, a great showing. They was at the Barclays Center, where Wilder always has great knockout performances, legendary performances there. So the question is now is what's next for Wilder? What could be the next opponent for Wilder now after knocking out Robert Helenius? Obviously, the other day, the WBC came out and said they were trying to order the fight between Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz. That fight, to me, I mean, yes, it is an interesting fight. It's a very interesting fight. That fight is it's very interesting because Andy Ruiz, you know he's going to come to fight. He's got fast hands, and he's going to come with combinations. But I do believe that in the end, like how Joshua caught Ruiz in an exchange, I believe that Wilder could do the same thing. It's almost, I feel like it would be the same thing that would happen. Wilder will end up doing the same thing that what he did to Robert Helenius. That's what he'll do to Andy Ruiz, because I believe that Ruiz will try to throw an exchange and then he might get caught with something. So, and I just believe he's going to knock Andy Ruiz out. At the end of the day, I still believe he's going to end up knocking Andy Ruiz out. It's still a good fight, but it's a fight that, honestly, I'm gonna just be honest, it's a fight that I kind of wanted to see maybe a year ago when, Wilder had his WBC belt and Ruiz had all three belts. It would have been nice to have seen that fight then, because then it could have been for undisputed, but that didn't happen. So, Ruiz lost his belts to Joshua in the second fight. So, so it is what it is. But I mean, that is a possible fight. AJ, what do I think about that fight? Of course, that fight is the biggest fight that could be made. That fight still, right now to this day, if that fight was to be announced, that fight is the biggest fight in boxing, alongside with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. That fight still it may still be bigger than Errol Spence Terrence Crawford's fight. I mean, that might be controversial. That might be, I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but to me, I still think that fight is big because they're both for one, they're both heavyweights. Two, they both have knockout power. Well, Joshua has more of, he can stop you than like the one punch knockout that Wilder has. So, but it's still the biggest fight to be made in boxing. Everybody still seems to want to see that fight. So that fight still can be huge. That fight is still huge. The only problem with that is, all the games that, AJ and Eddie Hearn has played throughout the years. Are they going to really sit down and negotiate and make this fight happen? That is the question. There's just been a lot of games being played throughout the years with AJ and with Eddie Hearn. They've said a lot of bad things, negative things about Wilder, saying that, they didn't know who he was. When Wilder came up with the $50 million after AJ said in an interview, he said that he would fight Wilder for $50 million. Wilder has the money to make that fight happen. But then Eddie Hearn is saying he needs proof of funds. He says he doesn't trust or believe an Alabama guy. So he basically needed to see proof of funds of whether or not, if he's telling the truth or not. Obviously, AJ and Wilder had some conversations. Then AJ went back and told Eddie Hearn about the conversations. So, and all this stuff is documented. So, and then, they also lowballed Wilder. Basically gave him a flat fee of like $12 million to take that fight, the Joshua fight. And Wilder agreed to those terms. But then, once Wilder agreed to those terms, because they didn't think Wilder was going to agree to those terms, they decided, oh well, okay. They try to pull all the tricks out, so then they pull out another trick and say, oh well, we got Alexander Povetkin as our mandatory, and so we have to take that fight instead. We can't take the fight with Wilder because we have a mandatory, which is ridiculous because, you know, the undisputed fight could have trumped that mandatory fight, but they pulled that out of their, they pulled that out of their hat and basically was like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take this mandatory because they were scared to fight Wilder and they knew what the result was going to be. And it just goes to show you that Wilder was willing to do anything it took to make that fight happen, but they kept playing games and they obviously didn't want that fight at the end of the day. That fight could have happened years ago when they both was undefeated and they both had belts, but Eddie Hearn and AJ was playing games. Do I still want to see AJ and Wilder fight? Absolutely. I do want to see that fight happen. I hope that fight can happen. I don't know. It remains to be seen if it will happen or not. Let's see. What's the other options that is out there? Yes, there's Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is out there. That would be a good fight. Joe Joyce would be a good fight. Because Joe Joyce is a guy that could take punishment, and he showed a brilliant display against Daniel Dubois, and I honestly thought that Daniel Dubois was going to beat Joe Joyce, but I was proven wrong on that. Joe Joyce, man, he punished Daniel Dubois and basically stopped him, and then he just knocked out Joseph Parker here in his last fight. So it would be interesting to see how that fight plays out between Wilder and Joyce. Of course, I have Wilder winning that fight by knockout. I just think he'll be too fast. I just think he'll be too elusive. And I think that Joe Joyce is just too slow. I mean, but I've said that in a lot of fights against Joe Joyce about how slow he is, but he's still able to take punishment, and he's able to dish it out as well. So it would be interesting to see. But I think that Wilder would be too fast. I think he'll be too elusive. And I think that Joe Joyce will get caught with a shot that he didn't even see coming, and he'll be knocked out. It's just there's so many fights that can be made. But I really, and then there's the last one. I almost forgot. But then there's the last one. The man that was supposed to have been there at the Wilder fight, but he didn't show up. He's been awfully quiet as well. I haven't heard anything from him, but then there's Alexander Usyk. And that's the fight that I really want to see. I want to see Usyk and Wilder fight because I feel like that fight would be a big fight. Obviously, that fight would, if Wilder wins that fight, he would be a unified champion. He would have 3 belts that he's never had before. And to me, again, it will also cement his legacy that's already been cemented. Him beating Usyk would be huge because that would be just another name on his resume. And then, the haters really don't have anything to say after that because you can't say, oh, well, he hasn't fought anybody. I mean, he has fought people. He's fought Tyson Fury, and he's fought Luis Ortiz at one point in time that was the boogeyman of the division. And you can't, and everybody's going to say, well, who was Luis Ortiz really, and who did he really fight? And he was old and this and that. No, but you guys don't understand. Y'all don't understand the fact that this man was AJ's mandatory at one point in time, and Wilder still took on AJ's mandatory, which was Luis Ortiz, and fought the man twice. Now, if he was such old and he was this, he's a nobody, let me ask you this. Why hasn't anybody else besides Wilder fight him, besides Andy Ruiz? Besides Andy Ruiz, why hasn't Tyson Fury fought him? Why hasn't AJ fought him? I just need to know why. Why haven't these guys fight him if that was such a big deal? Why didn't AJ fight him when he was his mandatory? So if he was too old, if he was slow, or if he was a nobody, he was a bum, why didn't AJ fight him? Why didn't Tyson Fury fight him? You wanna know why? Because they didn't want no smoke with him. Because they knew how dangerous he was at the time. But give credit to Wilder because Wilder fought the man twice. And the man that they called the boogeyman of the division, Wilder ran right to him. So, again, that's a name on his resume, on Wilder's resume. So, for me, I believe that if Wilder beats Usyk, I believe that would be huge. like I said, that would give Wilder all 3 of the belts that Usyk has right now, since Usyk has beat Anthony Joshua twice already. So, and I think that would be a huge fight. I hope that Usyk, stays on his word and says and still wants to fight Deontay Wilder. I hope that people haven't made him change his mind. I hope that he takes the fight, because that would be a big money fight for him, and he knows it because he has nowhere else to go at this point. Obviously, the fight has been already announced between Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora, which is they're fighting for the 3rd time, which I don't know why fans are not, saying boo up to this fight, because he's fighting a man he's already beaten already, for one. And two, nobody wants to see that fight, And so I don't see where the far cry is for him. But why is there far cry when Wilder fights Robert Helenius though? I wonder. But so I think that it would be nice to see Usyk. It would be nice to see Usyk, man, fight Wilder. I hope he takes the fight. I hope that he doesn't get persuaded into something else. I hope that he stays on his word and just says, you know what, I'm gonna take the fight, regardless. I already said that I was gonna fight. I wanted to fight him because Usyk said it first. Wilder didn't call him out. Usyk called him out. So I hope that he stands on his word. I hope that he makes that fight can happen sometime next year, maybe in the fall. That would be nice. And it would be nice to see Wilder have all 3 belts, because I do believe that though Usyk is skilled, though Usyk is very talented, and he was undisputed at cruiserweight, and now he has 3 belts at heavyweight, beating Joshua twice. He's beat Derek Chisora. So I do believe that he's very skilled and very talented, but I just don't think he's going to have enough to be able to stop Wilder. The shots that Usyk took in the fight against AJ, I don't think he's going to be able to take against Wilder. I just don't believe it. I don't see it happening. And then you're talking about a guy that is much smaller, and I know that that's what's going to be the excuse, is that, Wilder beat a guy that was a cruiserweight, or he used to be a middleweight, or he's just a blown up middleweight. So that, that doesn't count. That's not fair. It's not right. You guys got all the excuses in the world for Wilder, but there's no excuses for Tyson Fury or for anybody else. They just clean perfect in your eyes. But I feel like, yes, Wilder would beat Alexander Usyk. I believe he'll knock him out. And I believe that it would be nice to see Wilder have all 3 belts. And then hopefully, ultimately, we get the Tyson Fury, we get the Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury 4. And I believe that ultimately, in the end, I believe Wilder will become undisputed champion. Hopefully, it all plays out that way. That would be nice. That would be nice. It would be a great story. And I'll just be excited to see that. But I hope that Usyk stands on his word. I hope that he does give Wilder the shot, because he really has nowhere else to go as far as fighting somebody, unless he wants to take some sort of tune-up, or he wants to fight some no-name guy or something. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about who Wilder should fight next and why. Definitely would be interested in one to hear. Or read in the comments. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Peace.